All right, this needs to land deeper, not just sound good, but feel true when you're alone with your thoughts.
Because here's the uncomfortable truth.
You're not stuck because you're doing the wrong things. You're stuck because you're doing them in the wrong state.
And that's harder to accept, because it means more effort isn't the answer.
Neville's ideas are powerful, but when they sound too mystical, people either dismiss them,
or worse, they try them, fail, and quietly start believing something is wrong with them.
So let's ground this. Let's make this real. Something you can actually use when life feels tight, uncertain, and heavy.
Because that's when this matters most.
The law they never properly explained. Listen.
If you've been trying hard, thinking hard, stressing hard,
doing everything you were told should work, and life still isn't moving the way you expected.
I get it.
That feeling of being close, but not there. Like something is just slightly out of reach.
Like you're doing everything right, but the results are late or missing.
That quiet frustration builds, not loud, not dramatic, just this constant pressure sitting in the background of your life.
And over time, it starts to change how you see yourself.
That's not failure, it's misalignment.
And what you're about to understand is not positive thinking. It's not hype. It's not blind belief. First, let's remove the fantasy. Neville said, imagination creates reality.
And yeah, that can sound vague, almost too simple.
But here's what most people don't realize. Science has been pointing in the same direction, just using different language.
Your brain does not clearly separate a real experience from a vividly imagined one.
That's why your heart races during a movie, even though you're safe.
That's why athletes mentally rehearse and still improve physically.
That's why one anxious thought can ruin your entire mood, even if nothing actually happened.
Your brain is not just reacting to reality, it's predicting it constantly.
And then adjusting your perception to match that prediction.
There's a system in your brain that acts like a filter. It decides what you notice and what you ignore.
And it's constantly asking, what matters in the world I'm living in right now?
Now here's the part most people miss. You don't see everything.
You see what matches your internal state, which means you're not experiencing reality fully. You're experiencing a filtered version of it.
So when you're stressed about money, or your future, or your life not moving, you're not just reacting to reality.
You're shaping how reality appears to you.
You start noticing every problem, every delay, every sign that things aren't working.
Your brain begins to expect struggle.
And once expectation is set, your body follows.
Your stress rises. Your thinking narrows. Your decisions become faster, but less clear.
You check your bank account more often. You replay conversations. You say yes when you shouldn't, and hesitate when you shouldn't.
And here's the dangerous part. The more this loop runs, the more real it feels.
That's not weakness.
That's your nervous system trying to protect you, but accidentally trapping you.
Now this is where Neville was actually right, but most people misunderstood him.
He said, assume the wish fulfilled. And people think that means just believe harder. Just pretend.
That's exhausting, and deep down, you know it's fake, so it breaks.
What he was really pointing to is this. Shift your body out of a threat state into a calm, regulated state.
Because when your body feels safe, everything changes.
Your brain literally operates differently.
You think clearer. You notice opportunities you were blind to before. You respond instead of react.
You carry yourself differently, and people feel that.
And the way people respond to you starts to change too.
This is not mystical. This is measurable.
Now let's talk about resistance, because this is where most people unknowingly stay stuck for years.
You've heard, what you resist persists. That's not magic. That's reinforcement.
Every time you obsess over a problem, replay it, analyze it, stress over it, you strengthen the pattern behind it.
So when your mind keeps saying, this is bad, this is urgent, I need to fix this right now, you are training your brain to live there.
And what you train repeatedly becomes your default.
Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Trying harder while stressed is one of the fastest ways to stay stuck.
Because urgency feels productive, but it quietly destroys clarity.
You move more, but not better.
You act faster, but not smarter. And then you wonder why nothing is really changing.
So what does surrender actually mean? Not giving up, not being passive, not sitting back and hoping.
It means interrupting the stress loop. It means creating enough internal space for your brain to function properly again.
When you say this is handled, you're not talking to something outside of you.
You're signaling your body, we are safe enough to think clearly again.
And that shift is where everything begins.
Your body settles, your thinking opens, your perception widens.
And suddenly, you start seeing things that were always there, but you were too tense to recognize.
The scary part, nothing new appeared.
You just finally stopped blocking it.
Let's make this real.
There was a woman under serious financial pressure.
Not the kind you casually think about, the kind that keeps you awake at 2 a.m.
Where your chest feels tight, where every notification feels like bad news.
Where your mind won't switch off, even when your body is exhausted.
Deadlines were closing in, calls were coming in, and every day felt like a countdown she couldn't control.
She did what most people do. She pushed harder, planned more, thought about it constantly.
And nothing changed. If anything, it got worse, because the pressure never left her system.
Then something shifted, not outside, inside.
She realized something simple, but uncomfortable. This panic isn't helping me.
And for the first time, she stopped feeding it.
Not fake calm, not pretending everything was okay. Just a quiet decision. I'm not going to keep spiraling like this.
And that changed everything.
She spoke differently. Less urgency, less desperation.
She noticed options she had ignored before. She followed through on things she had been avoiding.
People responded to her differently.
Opportunities didn't magically appear. They became visible.
And slowly, things began to move. Not instantly, not magically.
But predictably, you're not creating something out of nothing.
You're changing your state. And that changes your perception, your behavior, your decisions, and eventually, your results.
Now let's go deeper into one of the most powerful ideas, the after state. This is where everything clicks.
Most people live in almost there, almost working, almost happening.
And that state keeps them stuck.
Instead of imagining getting what you want, place yourself mentally in a moment where it's already normal.
Not the excitement, not the relief, not the moment it happens.
After that,
when it's just your life. When there's no emotional charge left, no urgency, no chasing, just quiet certainty.
Because anticipation creates tension, but normality creates stability, and stability creates consistency.
When something feels normal, you stop checking, you stop overthinking, you stop forcing.
You just act from it. And that's where change actually happens.
Think about it honestly.
The version of you who has money isn't checking their account 10 times a day. The version of you who is confident isn't replaying every conversation at night. The version of you who is secure isn't constantly asking, what if this goes wrong?
They're not better.
They're just operating from a different baseline.
So the real shift is not, how do I get there? It's, what does life feel like when I'm already there?
And then practicing that state again and again until it feels familiar.
Now one last thing, and this matters more than people think. There is always a delay.
Because real life has friction, time, systems, other people.
So after you shift internally, your mind will test you. It will pull you back. What if this doesn't work? What if nothing changes?
That's not failure. That's your brain trying to return to what's familiar.
You don't need to fight it. You just don't need to follow it. Let it pass and return to your state again and again.
Because here's the truth. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your dominant state.
So if something in you shifted while listening to this, don't ignore it.
Because most people will hear this, agree with it, and go back to the same state tomorrow.
Don't be one of them.
Use it. Today, in small moments.
In how you think, in how you react, in how you carry yourself when no one is watching.
And if you want more of this, real breakdowns that don't just sound good, but actually change how you operate, that's what we're building inside ZestifyUp.
Because understanding this once is not enough. Your brain will try to pull you back.
That's why you need repetition, clarity, and the right environment.
So if you're serious about changing your state, stay close, subscribe, be part of it.
And drop this in the comments. I control the state, not the outcome. Because the moment that becomes real to you is the moment your life stops feeling random and starts feeling directed.
ZestifyUp. Amplify your potential. Stay steady, train your state.
We'll do this together, one state at a time.